Hi everyone, welcome back to the BTS today. Today we have with us President and Managing Director of Boomer Consulting. Well, we have been associated with Boomer since last 1 year, and it has been a great journey. Today we were here, for a 2-day Managing Partner Summit. One very wonderful thing I'm taking back here. It's a great community. What I felt that people are openly sharing all their learnings, mistakes, and everyone was sharing without the fear of being judged. So this is not I have observed, at least in accounting community. So this is something that I'm taking back, and it has been impressive that Boomer has been doing this for mid-sized firms so that they can grow and they can remain competitive. So yeah, Sandra, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I love it. And I agree with you on everything you said about the Managing Partner Circle. It is such a strong community of people professionals who want to grow, who want to be better, and they're helping each other do that. They have figured out the secret sauce. Don't try to do it by yourself. Have somebody that you work with. So, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You know, my first impression was like, and I'm being honest here, that it would like be any other community. But this first-hand experience where everybody's raising hands and telling that this is what I'm using, this is what my thing.
Yeah.
And what I like is you facilitated so well. I mean, those pertinent 20, 25 questions coming up.
Yes.
Everyone needs answer for. I think it's the best format. And coming in person and everybody coming in forward, and I see everyone taking notes, so which they want to take back and implement, so to say. So it was wonderful format.
Thank you. And I agree with you. So I love how we do that too. So a part of the 2 days that we spend together is that conference IO, where they can put their own questions in, and then they can vote them up for whatever they want to talk about, and then we take time to stop and talk, and you can tell the topics that really are hitting home with them because they talk about them for a long time. And then you can tell the ones that are like, we're good with that, and move on. But they are so open with each other. I know you saw that. They are not shy about calling people out when they say something. They're not shy about pushing back on each other. They're not shy about saying, let me help you with that. We've done it before. So that is the magic of that group. And they're great managing partners.
So let's start with this. So typically this podcast, we want to target a firm within 15 to 30 member space.
Okay.
And what are the confusions or what are the questions they have? Would like to learn from your expertise. And before we start, how did this love affair with accounting profession started?
That's a really good question. I saw that when you sent them to me, and I had never been in a CPA firm before I walked in to interview with Gary Boomer for the job that I got. And I had no idea what it was going to be like. I had no idea how to run a CPA firm. And I had been in banking all the way up until then. And I went to work with Gary, and he said, what you know and what you do, this profession needs. Because there was not a lot of HR expertise in the profession at that time, which was 30 years ago. So it was a long time ago. And I said, oh, okay. But my impression of CPAs at that point in time was, pocket protectors, pretty boring people, probably smart, but not very personable. And I went to a conference the very first, probably 2 or 3 months I worked with Gary. And boy, did that perception change. They were smart. They were engaging. They were forward thinking. They were people who wanted a great relationship, and they wanted to take care of their clients. And I was like, okay, I could like this profession. And it was literally within 6 months, I was like, I can make this my career. I can make this my home. And I didn't know where it would take me. I didn't know what I would be doing, but I fell in love with the profession within 6 months after hitting the door. I will tell you that when I think about the young people now that are going into the profession, I wish I could take a snapshot of what it used to be like and a snapshot of what it is today. And I think we would get all kinds of people entering this profession. It is so much better than it used to be. People can create a career here. They can create a life here. They can create excitement here. it's really running a great business, and I just don't think they see it quite the way that it is. So I think it's amazing. So,
and so what do you think about the fact that a lot of CPA firms are now inviting or possibly having partners who are non-CPAs?
I think it's fine. I love the CPA profession. I think that it's important to have CPA partners, obviously. But I do think that there's room at the top for people who are not CPAs. And so we are seeing people like your COO, your operations person, because honestly, that is not what a CPA went to school for. They went to learn how to run a business well, but how to run their own business well and how to get into the deep dives of operations. So I think a COO could be a partner. I've seen CHROs. So, your human resources, learning and development people become partners. Your IT professionals. How could you run a firm without really amazing technology? You can't. And you need somebody who's strategic. Now, do I think that all of them should be? No. I don't think all of them are leaders. But I think when you find a leader that is in one of those positions, you should absolutely think about making them a partner. Maybe even just do it. I will say, now this was in a larger firm than what you're talking about, but it was in a larger firm, probably 250 full-time equivalents. But they had a CIO that was extremely well known in the profession, who was really very strategic about leading that firm to be one of the best in technology. And he was good. And he said, I want a stake in the game. I want to be a partner. And they flat out said, you will never be a partner here. We will not have anybody who's not a CPA. And so he left, started his own company, and now he is rocking it somewhere out there, and they've lost him. And I just want to kind of shake that managing partner and say, what are you thinking? Why did you do that? Because he could have been super for their firm, and they just didn't see the brilliance that they had right in front of them. But I think that there are a place for it. I do also think there will always be a larger percentage of CPAs that are partners than non-CPAs. It's not going to be half and half or 80-20. It's going to be more CPAs than non-CPAs.
And if you look at this in current parlance, the private equity firms are owning a big piece of firm, right?
Yeah.
In some cases, they are owning 100% of the business. So they are not CPAs.
Correct. And they're not CPAs.
Yeah,
you are right.
So if we compare it with that from that format, because at the end of the day, traditional format is if you have the competency that you bring on the table, you are able to manage the book of business,
right?
Manage the engagement well. That's where you become the partner, and you can come in.
Absolutely.
And another thing is the CPA firms are expanding beyond traditional accounting and tax services now.
Yeah.
Advisory is one area. I have clients where we have built team in the area of cybersecurity.
Yeah.
PCI DSS compliances, SOC. We are helping some of the firms in SOX side, which is more on internal audit front, where we have a lot of CIAs coming in. We are helping firms on data analytics, reporting, Power BI and other integrations. So we have some CMAs working in that area. So I think that way also the competency requirements of CPA firm essentially has client base, and now they want to serve more.
Correct.
The same clients, how they can do that. I mean, if I talk about us, the whole thesis behind MYCPE ONE was we wanted to keep accounting firms, CPA firms at the center and expand our capabilities.
Right.
So we are going beyond CPE and outsourcing. We are expanding into multiple dimensions. The idea is to continue to serve accounting and CPA firms. So we are now bringing in on our board a lot of people who are non-accountants.
Yeah.
Traditionally, it was me and my younger brother who are accountants. Now we are bringing tech professionals. We are bringing somebody from customer success side. So forming that leadership. So taking a leap from what you said, I think it's CPA firms' shape and the DNA is changing.
Absolutely. I like what you had to say too about the various different services that we might bring in to make us stronger, right? Even in the very small firms, wealth management, like you said, data analytics, those are all becoming just a part. I like the word DNA too.
Yeah.
DNA of what these firms are looking like. And those are not CPAs traditionally. They are people that have expertise somewhere else. So yes, I agree with you.
And I was talking to Alina, which is
Yep.
part of Boomer Group. They are our client
Yeah.
as well, and they have changed their name from the Wilson Tollner
Right.
now to I think
Anchor Point.
Advisory.
Yes.
So firms are moving to rebrand themselves, not just a traditional last name called CPA firms. They want to position themselves as much more than CPA firms. So
exactly.
this shift is also happening.
You know, I agree with you. And one of the things that their firm has taught me, and that I have seen in a lot of other firms, is that if you are going to build a CPA firm today, if you and I were going to go out and start our own CPA firm, we might start with CAS, Client Accounting and Advisory Services, at the hub. And then we would go, okay, now we need to build our tax practice off of that, and our audit practice off of that, and our consulting practice off of that. And that would be the hub. It is not what the hub was a long time ago, or even in most firms today. It's tax at the hub. So I think that is what they are doing different.
Yes.
And if you look at what Elena and her team are building at Anchor Point, I'm going to have to get used to that. Anchor Point Advisors.
Yes.
That is what it is. They're building CAS and then everything else built around that. And so they're really, truly becoming advisors to their clients, which is what we want to see. That is, and if for every firm out there, if you're the smallish firms out there, that's how you should, even if you have to stop and rebuild your firm a little bit, reposition it, that's what you need to do right now, because that is what is going to be needed in the future.
So let me put you in a position of a partner. You are an HR leader partner of a 30-member firm.
Yep.
Who the managing partner has made a decision that we want to grow. The best way to grow right now is acquiring firms. There's one way to grow organically, but some of these younger owners and partners are looking out for acquisitions.
Yep.
And some of them are even looking at debt-funded acquisitions.
Yep.
So they are ready to take the leverage. Being a strategic planner and advisor, which is one of the expertise of your working with CPA firm, some of these smaller firms do not have, I would say, a roadmap, clarity. Right. They fear the uncertainty. The biggest question is, how would it integrate? Number one, how would I meet the capacity? Second challenge. Finance, I have never come across them fearing that I'll be taking a debt or it's going to be an earn-out payment. I have never seen that as a challenge. The challenge is, how would I be able to cater the client? I can't manage clients. So how they can make this shift from this mindset and actually, kind of continue growing? What do you advise?
I think there's lots of ways they can do that. Honestly, I don't think there's one size fits all, but I would look at their client base. So the first thing I would do as a consultant is I would look at their client base and see where their niches are. And so I would do that by looking at, first of all, what are the services that you currently offer and what are the niches that you're catering to today? Perfect. And you're going to look for where are their strengths. In some cases, that's going to be construction. Some is small business. A lot of them are small business. And in those small businesses, are there specific small businesses that you're really good at? And I would take a look at their client base and I would ask them to let go of 10 to 20% of their current clients to give themselves capacity to go after the higher level clients. So that's the first thing I would just look at their client base. Second thing I would do is say, okay, how are you managing your firm? Who, it's not what you're doing, it's who's doing it. And I would make sure that the proper people that really know how to manage people and processes and technology, and growth, that they have somebody like that. And if they don't have somebody like that, go out and hire somebody right now that knows how to run your business. And that's an ego thing sometimes for some of our leaders, because they think they can, but they're slowing down the growth of their firm because they'd be really great at going out and finding more business, but they're not great at running their business. So I do that.
So working on the strength of the people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then I guess the very next thing is, what's your growth strategy going to be? Are you going to grow organically? Now, that's not a question of if. You're going to grow organically. What kind of clients do you want? Let's really profile them, and let's go after a very specific kind of client. Let's just not let everybody walk through the front door. I think the habit that we get into in a small firm is we'll take anybody. You shouldn't do that. You should be really good at something and take those clients. So What clients are you going to let through the front door? Then you're going to have to ask yourself, okay, should we be looking at an acquisition? Should we be acquiring another firm or another company that might make us stronger? So if my niche is small business, and if my client base is, larger small businesses, they're going to need wealth managers. So if I had a wealth management business, they would absolutely dovetail with what I already have, and they would need me. I might need some data analytics people, because what those clients are going to want is tell me how to run my business better. If I'm going to have an advisory practice that's going to help that business, they're going to want reports, and they're going to want data, and they're going to want to see how they're doing. Data analytics can do that for me. So I'm going to go out and look for a data analytics person. I'm going to kind of tear it apart little by little, but when I put it all back together, when the puzzle gets put back together, they have a very strong advisory firm that's very niche focused, that's going after a very specific kind of client, and now they're in a position to grow. But they can't just do that by doing the same thing they've always done. And that's what I fear some of them are doing, is just what is easy. They're hitting the easy button right now, but it's not going to be easy forever.
So just to summarize the takeaways, finding the niche, and just to expand on what you said, niche could be a particular industry,
yes,
or could be a particular service as well. For example, I have seen firms just specializing in trust and estate,
Yeah.
So it could be a particular service as well. And I also consider niche as way of working and delivery. So if you are able to do something in a specific set of process and are able to replicate and scale, that could also be a niche, according to me. So I think finding your strength, when she said niche, initially when you start the practice or start your business, for first few years you want to welcome everyone, because you need to
absolutely
you need to build your practice. But as you grow, your strategy needs to change. And what she is saying, just to put furthering that thought, that when you start growing, you need to identify who is going to be your right client and where your strength lies in. Then the next step comes in, do you have, just to summarize what she said, is right people doing it? Once you have this two figured out, then the next step is that, yes, look out for acquisitions, look out how you want to grow organically, and identify those right potential set of practices which has those clients and right clients out there. So once that is done, probably, for smaller firms, this could be kind of a template that they can build on. Now, this young owners, again, who want to pursue acquisition-led growth, I get a lot of inquiry, and some of these, we met Scott today, and they are looking at offshoring as one of their growth engines to acquisition-led growth, right? So when they come to us, again, the confusion is there. So what do you think, if they have made up their mind that the first thing is clear, they've identified clients, they've found out the niche, the team onshore is ready, so 70% template is ready. Now they are pursuing acquisition-led growth.
Yep.
Now the real challenge is integration. HR challenges comes in. So what do you think, in your past experiences, there are mistakes that has been made, and then there are things that has been done well?
So as they're growing, then as they're growing, where are the mistakes? Where are the things that have gone well?
Yeah.
I think the mistake that they make is trying to do way too much work for too many clients with too few people. And the truth is, you burn your people out. You don't take care of your clients well. They don't feel the magic of having you with them. And so it's a problem. And the talent wars are still on. We're still trying to find people. That is why, when you look at capacity these days, and I'll take a little bit of a side trip here, but when you look at capacity these days, it's not one thing. It's, we used to just put an ad in the paper and put an ad out there on LinkedIn and you get people. You can't do that anymore. And so you either have to find other talent, which offshoring, outsourcing, whatever word you want to use with that, is absolutely what they should be doing. If they're not doing that, they're really behind in their thinking, and they're really behind in their strategy. So they have to do that. They also have to look at how much work they're doing and let go of some of the stuff they shouldn't be doing. That's an absolute. And they should teach and train people to work higher level faster. So the faster you can get your brand new employees at the review level, or the reviewers at the go out and find business level, the better you're going to be. don't let yourself get stuck in that, well, you have to be an accountant for 5 years before we'll let you be a manager, and you have to be another 3 years before we'll let you be a principal. That's nuts. I mean, let people start going out and learning faster. And all the resources are there to do it. We have to let them. We have to get out of their way. So I think that's a big part of it. And process improvement. You know, I haven't talked about that at all yet, but even in very small firms, process improvement can absolutely give you back time. If you are running a process for tax, or you're running a process for payroll, or whatever process it is, and you have so many loops and you know, blocks in the process that it takes you hours to do that, if you were just to change the process and teach people differently, that you'd get time back. I have a firm that I worked with that they were doing their entity tax review process, and they figured out that if they just changed the process, they could get 2,080 hours of their time back, a whole person, the next year. So they changed the process, they got the time back, and they didn't make a plan on what they were going to do with the time. So it kind of was like sand going through your fingertips. It just, they don't know where it went. It just, they know they saved that time, but they don't know where the time went. You have to have a plan for how you're going to use that. My opinion is take that time and go out and talk to your clients. The other worst story I've heard recently is my own accountant told me that he had lost one of his best clients. And I said, oh my gosh, what happened? And he goes, well, I'm embarrassed to tell you, but he said, I've had this client for 15 years. Now he's a small business client. So he is exactly in the demographics you're talking about. And he said, Sandra, I had this client for 15 years. I got a letter from him the other day that said, you know, we've switched to another accounting firm, told us thank you, and that was it. So I called him and I said, oh my gosh, what can we do to recover? What can we do to get you back? You've been my client for 15 years. And he goes, well, you want to know what you didn't do right? And he goes, yeah. And he said, this is the first time I've heard your voice in 15 years. You got to take time to be with your clients. And if we can find a way to outsource some of the work, and we can take time to make the process better, and we can know that we're on the right niches, all of those things are happening. That gives us time to go out and talk with our clients and find more work. We can develop new services. We can find new services that they need, and we can develop a deeper relationship, which absolutely should convert into more revenue. And that's what we all want. We're a for-profit business. That's what everybody wants. I mean, that shouldn't be a hidden thing, but that's important. I guess the last thing I'd say, for at least for now, is we have to know our value and we have to know our worth. And so what I said, all those things I said were true. But if you get down to the point where you're going out and talking to your clients more, and you're developing more services, and you've got new services you can offer them, and then you go, I don't want to charge them that much because I don't want them to be mad at me, or whatever is going through your head, stop that, because you are worth more than you are charging your clients today, a lot more. And you have to believe it, and you have to charge it. And I say all the time, whoever in the world created write-offs in this profession, they just did us a disfavor. They just disservice, because if we're doing the work, we should charge for the work.
Yes, absolutely. To summarize your answer, probably you mentioned one thing about it, process.
Yep.
Outsourcing is one area that you should focus on. Second thing you mentioned about that you need to talk to clients. So so there is one I don't want to name. This is because the common thing between us is we both serve accounting firms.
Yep.
So there is one client that we have in common. He was in today. I told him, go back. So he completely took off from tax preparation, right? And I have this view that, while you as a leader, you should be more in managerial role, and as you grow, you become a leader.
Right.
But I always say, till the time you're like 30, 40 people firm, you need to connect with your clients, with your team, and with the work.
Yep.
While the team and training and teaching becomes core part of this, but if you miss out on connect with the client, filter out who are the A1s and, serve them, be the face with them, and still keep connect with some people.
Yep.
You'll get direct feedback on what is going wrong. what is changing, how perception is changing for the client. I go and meet at least 200 firms a year.
Yeah.
And have that feet on the ground. So becoming MyCPE ONE was an insight from the client.
Oh, wow.
So,
that's exciting. That's very good. Yeah.
So, when I say not an absolute form, but they said, can you provide me this? Can you do this for me? Can you do this for me?
Yep.
So I said, that's the insight you come in. So is it something that I have got? So I think picking up and talking to the client is very, very important. Yep. Especially when you're transitioning from a firm, or you're acquiring a firm and getting new client. That being that point of contact. I personally feel that client doesn't want to bother you.
Yeah.
I always say that in your engagement, I advise my firm that you have an unlimited access to me.
Yeah.
People fear writing that, but I always say that gives them comfort that you will be available when they need you.
Right.
They're not going to bother you. 99% of the client won't bother you unless they need them really.
Right.
So I always say that this gives them a comfort. So again, coming back to the point, that's very, very important. And last thing that you mentioned about pricing your services correctly.
Yep.
Of course, competition plays an important role there.
Absolutely, yeah.
But at the same time, the value that you're delivering to the client is equally important. On top of that, one thing I always want these firms to understand is that when you acquire a firm, there is things that they have in mind that I want to build a template and then grow upon each one of them. So I always say go slow and acquire one. But whenever you do that, make sure you write down probably in a computer that what went right and what went wrong.
Yep.
That becomes your template. For example, I always say this, that let's say one transition you want to make, that because I'm closely working for outsourcing, one transition that you want to make, that what work we want to give offshore and what work we want to keep for the onshore firm. So I always say, let's do this exercise, and we do this every year, that on a piece of paper, list out the tasks that your onshore team is doing and rate each of them on 1 to 7, that what is the task that you're most comfortable with and what is the task that you like the most.
Right.
And then you have this matrix and the 4 quadrants where you have some people who are comfortable with all the tasks but not liking it, and some people who are not comfortable with the task but want to do that.
Right.
And then some people who are, so you get this 4 quadrant and you are able to actually find out what are the tasks that you want to start off with offshoring. Right. So this helps you with the building of the template. And of course, you want your onshore team to be involved in your A category clients and be client facing. So I always say that the do it first step is, as we talked about, finding out the client, the strength, the team, the leads. Second step is acquiring one.
Yep.
And applying the principles that we talked about. And then once you are able to build, then it's more like going with speed.
Yep. Everything you just said is absolutely on target.
So Sandra, culture is something that you have been speaking about a lot. For a firm, and this is a very basic question, for a firm of 15, 30 people, it sounds little, for lack of a better word, hypocritical. Yeah. I don't know. But so how do they really build, values and the culture? Is it on paper defining something, or is it the conduct of the owner which defines it, or you have some kind of a vision? Because smaller firms do not really have this.
Here's what I think. I think they actually do have it. I think that if they don't create it themselves, it'll create itself for them. So in other words, everyone has culture. You walk into any firm, talk to any employee there that's been there for 6 months or so, and say to them, what is the culture like here? And they will start listing off attributes of things that they like and things that they don't like, right? And so you're going to get a culture. What I would say is, writing it down, I think, is important, but even more important is living it. And that means that I think it's important for you to think about, what do I want my firm to be? And if I have 30 people, well, 15 to 30 people, that's still a decent sized firm. Boomer Consulting is 20 people. So we're right there, right? We're in with that number that you're talking about. And I work with a ton of firms that are that size. And I know some of those firms that have a ton of turnover and they are toxic to work in and they don't care about their culture. And it shows in their numbers. And I know firms that have worked hard to define what they want their culture to be. We want to be you throw all the words, right? But transparent, they want to be open. You made the comment, you want to have an open door, right? So people can come and talk to you. That is a culture thing. We want to have deep relationships with our client. That's a culture thing. We want to run our meetings a certain way. That's a culture thing. So I think the more you think about what you really want to be and then talk about it and then write it down and say, okay, we're willing to commit to that because we're going to write it on a piece of paper or on a sign. And I went to a firm not long ago and they had these round signs all over their building, all pretty colors and everything. And each one of them had one of their values on it and how they want to be perceived by their employees. And they were told, if ever you don't feel one of these things on the wall, the managing partner wants you in his office telling you, I didn't feel that today. I didn't feel included. Inclusivity is a big one. There's a lot of conversation out there about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. I believe in that. I believe in that strongly. And I believe if you don't talk it and you don't live it, you're not living it, right? It is not a part of your culture. And you should have it as a part of your culture.
And I want to congratulate about your DEI initiative as well.
Thank you.
I read about it online and I saw the video while I was researching about the podcast. So
good. I'm glad that you saw that. We're super proud of that. I mean, I think you have to really believe it and live it. I talked to a firm in there that I don't know if they're one of your clients or not, but I talked to a firm today and I said something about inclusivity and she kind of gave me this funny look and I looked at her and said, you don't have to worry about it. In her firm, they are so diverse. The entire firm is diverse. I mean, honestly, it's kind of hard to find a white person. But the reality is they live it every day. So they don't really have to talk about it because they live it. But I do believe in a culture building, and I do believe that it can come from different people in the firm, but it has to come from the leaders. So if everybody gets together in the firm and says, here's what we want, and they have this whole list of all these great cultures, things that they want, and the CEO or the managing partner or any of the partners for that matter, say, they don't live that, then it falls apart. So it has to be lived by all of the leaders in the firm. So
leading by example.
Lead by example. You've got it. That's perfect. That's a perfect way to say it.
So I think as we are going in the flow, let's say the small firm is already acquired and now what becomes, so I always say this, you have got people with you through acquisition, but they will stick with you only you have the right culture.
That's right.
So I think an organic skill or organic evolution of the firm needs to happen. That when you are small, you're personally connected to everyone. If someone has a problem, you reach out to them, solve that problem.
Yep.
But as you grow, that becomes a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
So having a strong culture means everyone in the firm is personally connected and trying to help each other and stay aligned with the firm's objectives. So
absolutely,
when you do that acquisition, while for owners it's just transfer of ownership and succession happening, but for people, the 15-20 people who are around working, for them it is a big anxiety that I was so happy working in this firm. I don't know now what is going to happen.
Yep.
So if you have those things charted out on a piece of paper and you communicate it rightly, I think that would be really, really helpful in integrating once you start acquisition. And it becomes more and more important to have that defined.
I completely agree with you because I have seen there's been lots of mergers. We thought in 2020 that maybe mergers and acquisitions would decrease. It did not. They improved. They went up, right? Yes. And no matter whether it's a PE company or whether it's a regular merger or acquisition that you see, the one thing that will tear the deal apart, that will tank it as fast as anything I know, is culture. If your cultures don't match.
We have seen some of them.
I bet you have. I feel like I have too. I mean, where they get together and they do all the financials, right? They make the numbers work. And they're like, we're good. And I'm like, have you talked about time off? And have you talked about what you wear to work? And have you talked about, how open your culture is? And all of that. And if they did not talk about that, and if they did not really come to alignment there, the deal can fall apart in a heartbeat. So yes, absolutely. Culture is huge in an acquisition situation.
So now we have stepped in.
Okay.
Now let us approach another stage of this firm.
Okay.
So, there was one of our client, I was talking in the Boomer Summit, and one of the questions came through was, this is a 45 member firm based out of Los Angeles, 5-partner firm. 3 of the partners are approaching retirement in 5-7 years.
Yeah.
Now the concern is this, that the partner who are retiring, they don't feel completely comfortable that the leftover 2 partners or 1 or 2 new partner coming in would be able to handle the operations. Right. And the 2 partners who are remaining, they are also feeling the concern that if just 1 or 2 partners are added, they won't be able to manage the clientele that they have.
Right.
And the private equity has become this escape route kind of a thing, for some of these firms. So how does this firm, smaller firm, should start succession planning in terms of, so the question really is when they should identify the talent, how they should get ready, what should be the partner comp. I mean, there are multiple questions I'm throwing at you. And
right.
So, because this is something that Boomer is also doing for a lot of firms. Succession planning is one key areas that you're helping firms. Yep. So, and I'm sure you're helping some of the larger ones. I'm talking about some of the little smaller ones into 20, 30, 35 member firms.
Yep.
So how do they, because owners, I think when I'm talking to them, they think they're going to remain in perpetuity, and suddenly they realize that they don't want to work in 3-4 years from now.
Right.
So how do you really navigate this?
I like to put things in, kind of bucket it, right? So if I was talking to that firm, I would say, okay, let's just look at your options. Just stop for a second. Option 1 is you just go forward, right? Managing partner is going to retire. The rest of you are going to be here. How are you going to handle the work? Let's talk about that and how that's going to work. And it can. You might have to let go of some of the work. You might have to go out and find another partner. You might have to go out and find some new talent. It can work, but it's going to take a lot of work to make that happen. Especially, it depends on how fast that managing partner is leaving. But if you don't have about a 5-year window to really correct some of that, you're in trouble. So
plan in advance.
Right. You got to plan in advance. Absolutely. Bucket number 2 might be, go out and find a couple of small acquisitions, right? There's a lot of $1 million firms out there.
Yes.
A lot of them, 500 to $1 million. Go out and find one of those that has a youngish kind of partner, some good talent that's growing up in the firm. It helps you grow your revenue. It helps you get some talent in. In fact, you're probably going to look for the talent before you look for the revenue, right? You're just looking for people. But they might own a small firm and they want to become a part of a bigger firm. I'd at least look at that. That'd be bucket number 2. Bucket number 3, you could merge up. You could go out and you could shop a big firm to merge into. Now, understand, you're giving up all your autonomy and you're giving up your firm to somebody else. So you're going to become whoever else it is, right? If that is interesting to you, you could do that. So that's number 3. And the last one is you could talk to PE. However, there are lots of different PE companies out there. I don't know quite how to say this to like an audience, but if you think PE is one model, you're wrong. There's
multiple models.
20 models, right? Some of them will buy all of you. Some of them will buy pieces of you. Some of them will just want a piece of your business. So, but in a firm that size, what normally is going to happen is they're going to buy all of you and they're going to roll you up under one of their other firms. So you're still getting merged up. You're just getting merged up, not just with another company, but with a PE company.
Yep.
And if you had a magic ball, if you had a magic crystal ball that you could see 5 or 8 years down the road, I could tell you, you should look at that. You can't. I have nobody in this profession right now knows what's going to happen in 5 to 8 years. When all those PE companies, the first deal is done.
Nobody has an exit.
Nobody knows, right?
Yeah.
So you're taking a risk. Now, you're going to take a risk in any one of those buckets, right? Which one feels more attractive to you? Which one do you want to try for? And what I hear from most firms is bucket number 1, we are going to make this work. We're going to figure it out, and we're going to go out and we're going to try to find some talent. We're going to try to build this on our own. Or I want to go out and try to find some of those smaller firms to merge in. Those are the two that are more likely that they're going to want to do, because they want to keep their autonomy. The reason that they started their business, because they wanted to own something, right? They wanted a business that they could build and that they were a part of. And as long as that managing partner has a couple of younger partners that can take on and carry on the business, we're okay. Here's where that really falls apart, though. If that 45-person firm has 5 partners and 3 of them are retiring in 2 years, and the 2 younger ones really don't know how to manage a firm yet and don't want to, now you got a problem. Now you got to go to one of those other options because you don't have a choice. And then you've got 40 people that you're, you know, you and I both know, as running businesses, running the business isn't all about you. Yep. It's about the 40 families or however many families that you're feeding. And what you're doing is trying to protect the firm, not just for yourself, but for those 40 families. And that is a bigger, much bigger responsibility.
Absolutely.
Than I feel like some people realize. But that's where they're at. I mean, that's where that firm's at. And so there's options, but you got to figure out which one is most comfortable for you and your team.
Yeah, I mean, it should be clear to you that what do you exactly want.
Yeah.
And as I said, as you said correctly, that if you want these families to run, and then probably you should find a person who is the right successor to you rather than finding a home, because they already have a home. It's just that you need to change the what do you say? Change the main person running the home.
The managing partner, right? Yeah. You know, one of the interesting things about this particular group, so this group's been going on for, oh my gosh, probably 15 or 20 years. I mean, it's a long time. The very first meeting I had with them, which was a long time ago, and there was 10 firms in the room, and they were all complaining about their next level of partners. They don't want to work as hard. Same thing you hear today, right? Same thing. So I said, so I'm curious, how many of you, like, what age were you when you became a partner? And, you know, when did you get asked to the table? And as we went around the room, for all 10 firms, every one of them said, well, I didn't make it in the firm that I was at. I started my own firm. I didn't make it. Started my own firm. I didn't make it. So all of those firms that were successful, somebody out there didn't see that they were good people and that they were. So I would also encourage a lot of people out there in this profession, step back. And if you're looking at your next generation and you're saying, I don't think they're good enough, ask yourself if that's really that they're not good enough, or is it that you have kind of some prejudices, like they're not like you. Well, they may not be like you, but they actually may end up being better. So be careful about that too. Sometimes really good people are right in front of you and you just don't see them.
I think 2 problems in accounting industry are overrated, according to me. Mm-hmm. The first being the people think that we have to work crazy hours.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of social media and all of them says that, and that actually kind of makes this little less attractive than the younger generation thinks. I don't think you have some hours so I always say initially in career you have to put some hours, but then after that things settles down and you have to work a little extra during peak time, but outside of peak time it's pretty normal. And second thing is, so this is from the talent perspective. Now from the management perspective, I think when they say that, you know, a lot of younger generation doesn't want to work, while a portion of it is true, but I still know a lot of younger generation wants to really work hard and wants to make their way forward. Sometimes, as you said, they're not able to find the right house and they try to make their own then. So I think these 2 things, I have a little counter view on that. But thank you for sharing that insight.
You're welcome.
I think we are 45 minutes in the podcast. It was great talking to you. And again, thank you
so much for having me. I can't tell you how enjoyable it's been. And 45 minutes went by super fast. So,
and thank you for the summit. And we really enjoyed the company of the whole group, and it was fun. And thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you.